Kieran Donaghy is with us. Kieran, good morning to you. How are you?
Morning, Jerby. How are you?
I'm very well. What's the crack?
Not too bad, man. How are you getting on?
Yeah, good. Nice, quiet time for you. We have promised that we're not going to talk Gaelic football. So we want to talk basketball with you, right?
Okay.
Can I ask you one question about the roadshow that the lads had the other night? James Donaghy had a story, and Tommy Rooney is casting aspersions on the veracity of it. You might be able to vouch for this. Before games, Paul Galvin would squat Mike Quirk. Is this true or false?
Yeah, no, it's true. And when Mike retired, I became the heaviest player in the dressing room. So I was often on Paul Galvin's back before we games. And I was on his back during games too, because he carried us through a lot of them. But no, yeah, it's a definite thing. I think it was a thing about firing up the quads for being explosive around the pitch. So yeah, probably maybe not the safest thing in the world to have the likes of myself and Mike on your back, but it was definitely something that he did before every game. It mightn't be quite a set of 8 that James said. I kind of remember maybe 3 or 4 just to get the quads firing right before we went to the pitch. But yeah, Paul was obviously incredibly dedicated in his prep for games and performing at his best for Kerry. So there was no such thing as embarrassment if he felt that something could maybe get him an extra inch or two around the pitch.
Fair enough.
There's the psychological element of that as well. It's as well as getting his quads ready. Other players are probably looking at that, going, "Jesus, this is This is serious.
We're on it today."
Oh yeah, no, he was an animal. Obviously, you'd see him on the pitch, and people would have seen the way he played and all that, but just in terms of his prep and what he put into it, he's very detailed orientated and would have looked at every little factor to try and get an inch. So if he read somewhere that firing up your quads with a large amount of weight on your back before a game, he wouldn't be shy in asking the biggest fella to jump up in it for a few minutes.
Well, it definitely worked. Come here, we had John Feehan, the CEO of Basketball Ireland, in studio last week talking about the strategic plan. I just wanted to get your perspective as somebody who is deeply embedded in the culture of basketball in Ireland. What's your instinct about where the sport is at the moment, and the plan, and just generally how quickly or otherwise there might be some room for progress?
Look, the plan is good really around it. The theories of, more teams is obviously an important one. Obviously trying to get more players, things like table official referees. As we know, being a referee is never any fun in most sports, but especially basketball, because you're so close contact with the ref. It's such a fast moving game that, obviously as many mistakes as players as we make, they make mistakes, but in our eyes they're nearly not allowed to. So it's not easy being a ref. So I can see why they're looking to get more refs in the game. I know this year we started the season with 3 refs at all games, and then for lots of games it ended up being 2. So there's obviously a shortage there. So they're obviously looking at that to improve that. But yeah, just a general, awareness of the game has probably never been higher. I think the Super League is probably at a really good position now, just short of maybe what it was in the 80s and 90s. And I think the reason for that, and I know I listened to yourself and John and Shane talking about the plan, and I know you kind of quizzed him on the TV thing, but that's really where, they need to figure out, can they get games possibly on, Tina G on Friday nights, big games in the big stadiums, whether it be in Tralee or Neptune, or if they bring a big Dublin derby to the arena and really market it and sell it out and get kids over to it and let kids in for free, all those kind of things. I think that's really where it needs to go to get into the general public's eye. That would really, really, I know I'm currently looking for a spot. We have Garbage Tree Warriors who've been very good to us, but the league is at such a level now. There's 2 Americans in the league next year, so funds is always a thing for teams. So to satisfy the likes of Jim and the Garvey group, if you could say, listen, there's going to be a game, you have the cup final and the league final that are on TV, it's great. But I think where people are and the amount of times people come up talking to me about basketball now, whether it be the Super League, the Irish team, or obviously the NBA, it's never been on people's tongues more, I think. It's obviously the phones, it's hitting us. The NBA is such a product at the moment, even the EuroLeague. We have Daniel Jokubaitis here, who's from Lithuania, one of our best players in Tralee over the last number of years. The EuroLeague is sensational, and sensational to watch. You're talking about crowd if anybody wants to see the difference between NBA crowds and European crowds, just type NBA basketball and European basketball into the YouTube, and you'll see the difference between the crowds and just the fervour that is around the European basketball game, whether it's Real Madrid, Olympiacos, Panathinaikos, Barcelona, all these big teams. The TV is where it's obviously at, and I like everything to do with the plan, but I think there does need to be a real push to see, can you get Virgin Media, can you get Tina G, can you get RT to maybe look at games on a Friday evening, that there is a gap in the market, whether there's no rugby on at that time of year or there's a little gap. Can we get a few of these big basketball games on? Because we played Neptune here during the last game of the season, and it was, they beat us by one. Jordan Blunt had an incredible 3-pointer to win the game at the death. But as terms of a product, if you had cameras like that, the country would be talking about it, because it was just electric. The crowd that was in the hall, the noise, the foghorns, the show that was put on by the Warriors committee beforehand. It was an incredible product, and it's nothing short of, if TV cameras were there, it would make such a difference, because it just helps promote the game. It helps obviously with the amount of viewers you're reaching. It helps with your sponsors when you go to them, that they're really getting something, a bang for their buck, if they know there's a possibility more than one or two being a cup final or a league final, that games might be on TV. So that's just the only place where I would say that possibly falls short, is there has to be a real push to get in front of people's eyes, especially if you're looking for funding off Sport Ireland for the elite teams and all. Tina G do a great coverage of them games. But yeah, that'd be the big one for me.
That's what it is, Kieran, isn't it? It's word of mouth, because I know John Feehan, that they want 260 clubs, I think, by 2027 in this 5-year strategic plan across the country. And we've spoken to you about that before, the match day experience, and people don't often realise how close they are maybe to an Irish basketball game in their locality, and as you said, the lights, t-shirts being thrown out of cannons, the music, just the atmosphere. You nearly have to be there or have spoken to someone who has been there to really experience it, and that becoming more visible on TV, as you said, can only help.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think even when the coverage of the national games is on the arena, there's 2,000 people packed in there. It's electric, and sometimes I'd nearly be saying that when they're going through the game with the analyst, you nearly want them just to start going around the crowd and start actually trying to get the atmosphere, because you're often trying to hear the commentators talk pre-game or the analysts talk pre-game about what's going on, whereas you see when you watch the NBA, they're big into getting cameras on the crowd, getting cameras on the smoke machines, the lights going off, all that kind of intro stuff. So I think there's a small bit there that we can even improve on with the national team games. But anybody who's been to a top level close basketball game with a big crowd, obviously you've had the cup finals over the year, which is obviously our flagship product. But even that cup semi-final weekend that takes place below in Neptune Stadium, and the Mardyke and Blue Demons, they're electric atmospheres. And I think, we might have been the first crowd in Tralee that tried to do the cheapest NBA product ever, with getting the lights off and lasers and lights on the floor and that kind of smoke machines and that kind of entry team to just jazz it up a small bit. But a lot of teams are really buying into that now. We played against Mary, who won the cup this year, and they had a huge crowd in Galway. They were obviously having a great season. They blew us out of the game by 30 points, but the atmosphere inside there was unbelievable, because they went the extra mile with just making something special for the kids, that when they go to it, that they just want to go back, and that that they want to go and see these players play. And I think anything being on TV, it plays a huge role in kind of promoting the game and making the league even more special, and players wanting to play, because as John said, it's a semi-pro league. You've got your few Americans that are getting paid. There's 2 Americans in every team, so the product is even going to be better this year. You're going to have 4 Americans on the floor at all times, so that's going to make the standard higher, the games better. So yeah, looking to get something on a station on a Friday night, maybe move one big game every 3 weeks to a Friday night, pick your marquee games and your marquee venues, and just get it going that way initially. I think will play a big part in raising the profile of the league to an even higher level, and probably helping all the points that John has and Basketball Ireland have in that 5-point plan, with new teams, new refs. if all that stuff is on TV more, that will automatically happen.
One of the other things that we talked about briefly at the end was centralised contracts, the side of rugby, and just how transformative that would be if you reach a certain level and then all of the clubs have one player who's paid for by central contract. That's potentially a game changer for the national side and for the league.
Yeah, it would be huge, of course, and obviously, that will probably happen. How far it is down the line, I don't know. Funding is a huge part. Sport Ireland probably play a big part. The government play a big part in getting behind basketball a bit more. I know John has said that they're really interested in what they're talking about, but there's nothing shows interest than pumping money into the sport. It's the largest indoor sport we play. There's a huge diversity in the game. It's playable. There's never games called off. That national team program, I know Owen Quigley that works with us here in PST, it was on the Irish national team. They're looked after well, but I know it could be so much better for them. They're playing at the highest level. They're competing against really good teams. There was NBA players in the arena last year playing against them. So, if that could be brought on to another level, that would definitely help with the game, Gerard. There's no doubt about it. But, there's funding needed to push the sport. And, I've obviously always been a strong advocate for basketball in this country. And I think it does need a big push from both the government and Sport Ireland to really get behind the game. The level of talent, Gerard, that we have coming out now that are heading to 4-year scholarships, if they knew that they had a serious national team program to come back, if they knew they could come back and be the main guy in their town, in their club, you be guys that would be coming out of the 4-year scholarship would want to possibly play in Ireland with being in a contract where he goes for the next number of years. As long as he's healthy, he'll be able to start getting a house, setting up a family. And if those guys kind of really tying themselves in with the national team and their club team, your profile of the league goes through the roof. Like you see a kid like Adrian Fulton, what he's doing in the States is unbelievable. The level of basketball he's playing and where he potentially could go. It's sky's the limit for these guys that are coming out of Ireland now as 17-year-olds, raw, talented, hungry, and then they go to America and they go from playing 4 to 6 hours a week to playing 28 hours a week with the amount of practice they do before and after school over there. That's a huge rise in their talent levels. If they want it and they want to work hard, there's no reason why they can't, why sky couldn't be the limit for all of them.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's really exciting when you start to think like that. And maybe some of the Americans who come over could be Irish qualified, and then suddenly this is kind of a rolling ball of knives that just.
The national team going well at a high level would just skyrocket the game in the country, because they've done very well over the last number of years. Like, they've climbed up the leagues in Europe, and the coaching staff, Mark and them, have done a great job with them. But just that level of, if guys that are going over to the States could look at possibly a future for themselves in the game of basketball in Ireland, that would be massive for the country.
Lakers beat the Warriors again on Monday night, Kieran. 3-1 up in the series, one win away from the Western Conference Finals. I mean, it's LeBron and Steph. Basketball fans absolutely spoiled at the minute with the playoffs. But it was Lonnie Walker who tore it up in the final quarter for the Lakers. So it's really heating up.
Yeah, it's really heating up. Yeah, Lonnie I think he had 15 points in the last quarter. So, an incredible for a role player. Although he was a really good player for them at the start of the season until they figured out their roster, and he probably fell down a small bit. But, the level of talent that these fellas have low down the rosters in the NBA is bonkers. We probably see them rocking the bench and playing garbage minutes at the end of the game. But these fellas are at another level. And yeah, Lonnie was unbelievable the last day. I think the Warriors probably missed the trick. They looked to be causing Anthony Davis huge problems with high pick and rolls. And, I think it was Stan Van Gundy might have been the co-commentator on the game last night. And, he was freaking out about why they weren't just running that every single time down the court, because it was really causing them trouble. So the series isn't over. People may think it is. LeBron's a killer when he gets into this position. But, the Warriors, when they're playing at home and that crowd is up, and, a team that hits that many 3-pointers, it can just start to play in your mind a small bit later on. And, if Clay and Steph hit fire over there, and they get a Jordan Poole a small bit more consistent. Wiggins has a good game. Draymond's going to be Draymond. He's going to carry the energy for them. So, they win game 5. All of a sudden it's 3-2, and then all the pressure is really on LA in game 6. And, there's twists and tails potentially in the series, yet I don't see it as simple as the Lakers closing it out in game 5. So, yeah, it's some fascinating series going on at the moment. The level of basketball is, and the way the game is played. There's probably a reason I don't watch too much of the regular season. It's very much go through the motions for 3 quarters, and it's understandable. They've 82 games. You can't, in your right mind, potentially be up for every one of those games. But when it comes to the playoffs, it's do or die stuff, and you start seeing fellas diving. You saw LeBron fly into row 8 or 9 the last night trying to save a ball, when they're up 12. So it's a different game, the playoffs, but yeah, unbelievable at the moment.
Great to have you back, Kieran. Enjoy the weekend, whatever happens. Best of luck with it. Thanks a million.
You're the man, Ger. All right, bye. Be safe.
Good to talk to you. Kieran Donaghy giving us an impassioned reason why basketball is about to explode in Ireland, and hopefully he's right.